EduCore's tutelage over a significant part of South Africa's private education sector, specifically colleges, has again come in for sharp criticism from staff and students, past and present, complaining about a severe lack of academic support. Is this a similar repeat of the Damelin saga with its last-minute cancelled exams from last year?
I would hope that Booty would urgently investigate the challenges facing students, especially at INTEC College. The issue of unmarked assignments, not receiving feedback, staff not being paid for months are very, very serious issues. This has led to a number of students feeling demoralized.
We mark EduCore's test paper with News 24 senior education journalist Prega Govender next. Later in the show, former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's got quite the opinion about our policing past. And finally, he went viral for sipping brandies at a box game. Now Luigi, the homeless man, heads home after all.
To know when the next episode drops, hit the like, follow, and subscribe buttons on our YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast channels.
Don't forget, we listen to your voice notes at the end of this episode. If you'd like to engage us on this topic, though, you can send us your thoughts and opinions to the official Lead WhatsApp line. That number, 072 562 3179. My name's Graham Robenheimer. Let's chat all this and more right here on The Lead on News 24. Is EduCore again setting itself up for deregistration by government while representing a host of private education institutions like Damelin? EduCore has in recent years been drowning under a pile of complaints from staff and students about its poor teaching and administrative practices. Now, as the Council on Higher Education, it's a rather independent body, takes a closer look at EduCore's competencies, we've roped in our senior education journalist Prega Govender now to bring the state of the sector into sharp focus for us. He joins us live from Johannesburg now. Prega, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and welcome to your debut edition of The Lead.
Great. Thank you, Graham. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I know that once or twice in the past we've tried to have you on, and I'm finally grateful that you've managed to find time in your busy schedule for us. Look, it seems EduCore's issues have been coming on for quite some time now. Let's take it almost since the end of the pandemic and the end of the lockdowns, if you will, Prega. Let's begin with this so people can understand completely. Which of the private tertiary education schools as we know it today does EduCore own? And how many pupils do they claim to represent here?
Yes, so according to their website, they own Damelin, City Varsity, and INTEC College. And if we go back to 2022, at that time, they indicated that they had 50,000 students, and they also had Lyceum College in their stable at the time. So the figures were 50,000 students, but in actuality, according to the 2022 financial statements, they only had a total of 13,096 students.
Right, that were enrolled at the time. It's still a fair amount. I mean, these are futures that they're dealing with. These are people
Absolutely.
budding for better lives in this country. We know, of course, the litany of issues that have been reported on the front page of News 24 over the last short while. Our colleague, Jan Cronje, has taken a closer look in the past at Damelin when there was, issues of exams suddenly being cancelled last minute in East London, other lecturers from different competencies being brought in to mark papers that they may have not had full knowledge of. And then the Higher Education and Training Ministry came along and cancelled EduCore's registration of some of these schools and then reinstated it again. What else are we missing here in terms of the issues that led to that deregistration, Prega?
So, Graham, just for some context, EduCore's registration was cancelled in July 2023. And one of the reasons for the cancellation was EduCore's failure to submit annual financial statements for 2021 2021 and 2022, and their failure to also submit tax clearance certificates. So basically, they were granted provisional registration in August 2024 and full registration in March this year. The Director General of Higher Education, Nkosinathi Sishi, said the reason for his decision was the fact that they received positive cooperation from Educor, and this allowed him to, convert the provisional registration into full registration.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, Prega, there was this issue about whether or not it was provisional or full registration, right? And so News 24, we had to update our reporting because we even got a lawyer's letter from Educor at one point claiming that we were saying that it was provisional, although we were just following what government was stating. And then there was this period that was still continuing, right?
Absolutely. They were granted full registration, as I say, in March this year. But the burning question is, what were the other reasons for granting full registration? We are yet to know from the department about this.
Right. What are the current main procedural sort of systemic issues that have come across your desk, Prega? Basically, in today's top story on News 24 this morning has been "My life's been turned upside down," quote unquote, claims of unpaid salaries, student neglect at Educor. This time with INTEC College, not necessarily Damelin, but INTEC in a little bit more of a sharper focus in your particular piece. What are the main issues that we are still dealing with now, even though that Educor has been re-registered again?
So the bulk of the complaints from students have come from students of INTEC College. And for the benefit of listeners, INTEC College is a distance education provider. Among the complaints from students, and these are a number of students, I only mentioned a few in my story. Among them, the complaints were that staff were not being paid. There were also complaints from staff. As far as students are concerned, their main grouse was not receiving study material despite paying for them, and students' assignments not being marked and exam marks not being given to students. So basically they were left in limbo and they couldn't continue with their studies.
Right. In one instance in your piece, the students are shelling out a lot of money here, Prega. It's not as if it's small, chunk change here. It's 20,000 Rand. For a lot of people, this is their savings that they're putting into their studies, right? So they're paying over this money, but they're not really getting any dividends from that despite submitting their work.
Among the heartbreaking stories was the story of a single mother from Durban who paid in an amount of almost 14,000 in November last year, and she enrolled for dressmaking. The sad part is that she had to take a loan from a provident fund to pay in this money. And as I mentioned, this enrollment took place in November last year. But to date, as we speak, she has not received any study material whatsoever. And she's basically at her wit's end.
And, in other instances, we've had, as per your reporting, Prega, employers coming to the table for their particular staff and saying, look, we'll pay towards your studies. And you've just got to bring us back the marks and obviously the proof that you've continued and finished everything. But obviously in the case of INTEC, this is not just one student. There are many students facing the very same issues. And now the employers are threatening, the people you've spoken to saying, hey, look, we're not getting the dividends like you've promised because INTEC's not, following through. Tell us more.
Some of the students have indicated that they did not receive their official progress report. So basically, employers want to see some proof of progress, in the pupils. Some proof of academic progress. So in one instance, the employer was going to fund the student for a new qualification. But when he realized that the previous results had not come through, he stopped the bursary. So this poor student now had to cancel the new registration because she couldn't afford to pay it from her own pocket,
Sure. And obviously, as you say, staff also not exempt in terms of the systemic issues here. I thought very heartbreaking. Here you have a 64-year-old woman. She's was a sales consultant for INTEC College for many, many years, giving a lot of her time to this particular institution. What happened with her story, Prega?
Yeah, Graham, absolutely sad again. She worked for INTEC College for 26 years, and she's now 64. And since January this year, she hasn't received a cent. She has sent INTEC College about 30 emails, one as recent as as Monday. And during Monday's, in Monday's email, she mentioned that she has no place to live because she cannot afford the rent of 7,700. And one of her relatives had offered her a room, at her place. And this poor woman has to leave her house where she had been living for 20 odd years and now move to a gang-infested area in Cape Town. She told me that she has no incomes, the savings have been depleted, and she's now forced to work on Saturdays, offering first aid services for a sports club. So on a Saturday morning at 6:30, she gets to the sports field and works there until 6:30 in the evening. And for her troubles, she receives 200 Rand a day. She told me also that on Saturday, one of her neighbors gave her 2 burgers, a half a loaf of bread, and some grated cheese. And she ate the 2 slices, or the last 2 slices of bread yesterday. Very, very sad indeed.
Yeah, 200 Rand's not nothing, but it's not something when you look at our current economic times. Absolutely heartbreaking that people have to go through this, especially in a sector where, Prega, it's in critical need. We need lecturers of high caliber in this country, do we not?
Absolutely. And to come back to the case of staff not being paid, if we look at a college in Cape Town, City Varsity, a former lecturer there told me that almost 2/3 of the staff resigned at the end of December because of not being paid their November and December salaries. She was among those that also left. And they have not been paid until now. And
Sure.
From what she told me, this college, City Varsity in Rowland Street in Cape Town, has since closed down.
You're listening to the latest edition of The Lead on News 24 with Graham Rowenheimer. If you've got an opinion on what you've heard so far, drop us a short voice note on our WhatsApp hotline. That's 072 562 3179.
So here are students that are hoping for a better life in this country. Here are lecturers who are supposed to be in critical need in this country. And that's per government's lists. It's definitely a critical job that is required, lecturing in South Africa. I know that for a fact. I myself have been trying to lecture in journalism for the longest time. I went to go and do my master's to be able to be competent enough to do so. And it's in some circumstances quite difficult to get a position. And here's the reasons why, because the private sector is facing all of these challenges at the moment. Who's meant to oversee all of this, Prega, in the absence of the Higher Education and Training Ministry, which has its own issues and we're going to get to in the next short while?
Yeah, so basically we've got 2 other statutory bodies, the Council on Higher Education and the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. They are overseeing the private colleges, and the CHE, or the Council on Higher Education, has stepped in to look at the programs now being offered by Damelin.
Fairly independent, right?
Absolutely independent. What they have done is they've brought in a panel of academics to go through, the academic offerings the academic offerings from Damelin, and they have now come up with findings, and these will be released in due course, according to the CHE.
But we're not expecting flowers and roses here, right?
I don't suspect so.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that we don't have those results, but I don't think it's going to be a very rosy picture.
But on the basis of what you're hearing from INTEC now, seemingly does mirror the experiences that we've seen in Damelin prior, which both fall under the auspices of a private company called EduCore. And I thought very interestingly that throughout this process, Prega, the chief operational officer here, it's Mr. Michael Thurley, correct?
Absolutely.
Very difficult to get hold of, this gentleman, is he not?
Absolutely. So I emailed him questions on Thursday last week and followed that up with another email on Monday, I think. And I only managed to get hold of his cell number on Monday. And so I also WhatsApped him the same questions and reminded him again to please respond. And we haven't had a response as yet.
And that was also the case for Jan in his previous reportings on Damelin, is what I picked up. This has not been he's helped us before with comment and now he's suddenly not helping. It's been a consistent issue here that Michael has not been responding to News 24's requests for comment.
I think so, yes. I also, tried to reach out to another senior executive at EduCore. And he also did not respond to my email. So it seems there's a pattern of non-responsiveness from officials at EduCore.
And the whole reason under the previous administration, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Prega, is with Nobuhle Mkabane as the minister, no longer the minister now, but taking over from Blade Nzimande, she reinstated the registration for EduCore, and it looked as if they were quite satisfied with what Thurley and the rest of his team was telling them on behalf of EduCore. But we as the media don't really know what those details are. What has that ministry been telling us in the interim? Not much.
Not much, really, except, as I mentioned, Sishi saying, that they were satisfied with the cooperation that they received from EduCore. And sadly, the Department of Higher Education has also not responded to my media inquiries. I also went to Sishi on Thursday. I believe he was out of the country. And I've been trying since Monday, via the spokesperson to get the department to comment, but without any success.
Prega, I think anybody listening at this point would ask, a very pertinent question is, how critical are these particular colleges in South Africa today? You may argue from one perspective that, they are critical in the sense that they will help people to get to the necessary work or give them a better opportunity at finding the work that they want to do to enrich their lives in a very difficult economy. And on the other side of it, from a perhaps maybe more realistic perspective, is that, hey, don't waste your time. Go to, a quote unquote Ivy League institution like a university, like a UCT or a Wits or a Stellenbosch, and just rather spend the hard yards, do it there, get it done right, so to speak, and hope for the best from there. What's your perspective? You've dealt with this for many years. I'm eager to hear your opinion here.
So Graham, a very valid point you raised. If we take these students, for example, I mean, they sacrificed a lot. These are not young students. They have families whom they are taking care of, and they have got full-time jobs. So this is one of the ways in which they are looking at upgrading their qualifications, for the purposes of maybe a promotion at work. And so because it's a long-distance education provider, it's a convenience of studying at your own pace, after hours, at home. And, many of these students cannot afford the luxury of full-time studies at a university. So they take up these courses in the hope of upgrading their qualifications and, gaining soft skills in trades and so on. And at this point in time, I can safely say that at least the students I've spoken to from INTEC College are so demoralized that I don't expect them to study through INTEC College anymore. In fact, this is the message they have conveyed to me as well. And quite a few of them whom I spoke to have since moved to other private colleges.
And they've decided, to spend a lot more money, forfeited so much already, and yet have to shell out again, probably, perhaps, I'm spitballing a little bit, but perhaps double, triple the amount that they would have spent at a private institution, which they've already lost, to now shell out for another course at a university.
Yes, I mean, allow me to speak about this preschool teacher from Knysna in the Western Cape. So she enrolled for a higher certificate in early childhood development through INTEC College, because she wanted to complete registration as a teacher through the South African Council for Educators. So basically with the level 5, you cannot, qualify as a full-time teacher. So the 40-year-old teacher then paid fees of about 20,000 and completed 8 assignments between February and October 2024. But sadly, she has not seen the marks for any of her assignments. And she has now decided to enroll for a Bachelor of Education degree through a university so that she can complete her qualification.
It's just so much more extra effort. It's just so much more extra money and anxiety, and possibly for so many people. And I know the feeling. It can easily lead to a long spell of depression for many people because they feel like this is the only opportunity they'll ever get to better their life and for them and their family. The ministry, on another note, politically, has obviously changed hands now. Buti Manamela, who was the deputy Prega, has now come up. He's taking over full time in this ministry. Obviously, being now the second minister to take over since Blade and Zamande's days, and this is of course following the axing of Nobuhle Mkhabane, following that very controversial CETA appointment process that it was alleged, ANC-connected individuals were considered for those appointments. From my perspective, the higher education sector, although might do better under Buti because he seems very competent. I've interviewed him myself before in person. He seems like a fairly nice guy. But given the private education sector's need for assistance, for support from government, and given this political crisis that has now sort of entrenched that ministry, it doesn't really invoke a whole lot of confidence, does it not?
I agree with you totally, yes. In fact, I've been speaking to a few academics, and gauging their reaction to Buti's appointment. I mean, if one looks at this, the problems, facing these students, one would, perhaps ask him, to urgently, look at the quality of private education providers in the country as a starting point. Some of these academics believe that, people have lost confidence in the higher education sector. And one of the respected professors, Professor Jonathan Jansen, was a distinguished professor of education at the University of Stellenbosch, indicated that Buti's job was to win the confidence of the higher education community. And Jansen also mentioned that he needs to sort out the rot at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Another, esteemed academic, Professor Nadine Peterson from the Education Faculty at the University of Johannesburg, said that Nobushle in Kabane had lost the trust of the sector. So Buti has his work cut out for him, basically.
100%, can't agree with you more. Just to end off, final question, perhaps rounding back to my main question at the beginning of this piece, and Educor may be listening and thinking it's a bit of a salacious question to ask, but I don't think so. I think it's a very fair one given their track record and given the fresh claims of systemic issues within INTEC specifically. But is Educor possibly setting itself up for deregistration again, especially now with a minister coming into the top position from a deputy minister position, and perhaps Buti wanting to make his mark here? I know we might be putting the cart before the horse ahead of the Council on Higher Education's findings and recommendations, but what's your opinion here?
I would hope that Buti would urgently investigate the challenges facing students, especially at INTEC College. The issue of unmarked assignments, not receiving feedback, staff not being paid for months are very, very serious issues. And this has led to a number of students feeling demoralized and actually leaving INTEC College and moving to other colleges. So one would hope that INTEC College would try and get its house in order and iron out all the problems and challenges that are being mentioned by students. And I'm also hoping that the Department of Higher Education under Buti's stewardship would come down hard if these problems continue to persist at Educor.
Prega, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to our conversation for the longest time. You bring a lot of great knowledge to this particular sector. I look forward to future discussions with you. Very close to my heart, many of the issues that we're dealing with here. So thanks for your time on The Lead.
Thank you very much, Graham. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Trending topic.
To our trending topic now, and this political hot take was certainly not on my news bingo card for today. Nonetheless, former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo reckons he had more faith in the now disbanded Scorpions than he does the current Hawks. Zondo's again sounded the alarm on fighting corruption at a South African Council of Churches event in Johannesburg. The man who had headed up the much-publicized State Capture Commission believes criminals feared the Scorpions back in the early 2000s, but that was before the ANC later decided to dismember that unit. Zondo now reckons that the Hawks are not that up to the job in light of the lack of arrests emanating from his commission work. The top legal mind, though, has welcomed the president's latest move to give the judiciary unfettered access to its budgets and personnel. Yet, in the same breath, Zondo says he worries about the current state of the Judicial Service Commission and its opening for possible capture. Thanks to our reporter Kavil Singh for that report.
Looking for a smarter weekend scroll? The Weekender is your ultimate guide to bold stories, sharp opinion, and a fresh lens on life in Mzansi. From exclusive interviews and powerful essays to wine picks, playlists, and pop culture gems, it's your perfect weekend read all in one place, landing every Saturday on News 24. Finally.
And finally, the latest from the Good News Desk, and it's always great to hear from them, is that Luigi, the homeless box superfan, has now decided to head home back to the Eastern Cape. His real name is Alan Strydom, and he went viral recently after a fellow box fan gave Strydom his extra ticket to watch the Barbarians game in Cape Town. The act of selflessness in fact led News 24 to help track down Strydom and his family. Once his sisters in Gqeberha got word and travelled down to Cape Town to find their brother, it soon emerged that Strydom suffers from schizophrenia and had been a resident patient at the Fort England Psychiatric Institute in the Eastern Cape. It's now understood he didn't want to return to this life and preferred his general freedom. But False Bay Hospital gave Strydom a decision recently: return home with your sisters or head to an asylum indefinitely. Thankfully, he's gladly accepted the former and has now returned to the institute based in Makanda. From everyone here at News 24, including our dogged journalist, Good News editor Paul Herman, we wish Strydom nothing but the best. Here's to that next box match. From finding Luigi to a private education meltdown, our Mzansi is a multitude of converging narratives, and one of the best jobs in this world is to tell its stories. It's to have a listen to your voice notes in response to our previous edition entitled SAPS Capture Web of Intrigue Widens with Death Squad Mastermind's Arrest, honing in on the arrest of Katiso Katie Molefe in connection with the 2022 hit on lounge club owner DJ Somebody, whose real name is Opa John Safoka, as well as his two bodyguards. Molefe, as well as Tender Don Vusi Musi Kat Matlala, those are the two figureheads being put forward by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as part of his claims of SAPS capture. Let's have a listen to what you had to say.
Good afternoon, my name is Magnolia. On the topic of the death squad, oh my God, I am so conflicted, but I hope the cases get solved. It's about time. And by the way, July is giving us skacha after skacha, news after news. Thank you.
The only thing about the arrest of a death squad mastermind is that we can all say thanks or give thanks to Mr. Mkhwanazi because he's the main guy. Fearless one.
Regarding the death squad, I think is a fantastic thing, and maybe this will help, as now there's so much wave happening that Stenzo Meyiwa's case also can be resolved. So I think we're heading to the right direction. And it's going to be very interesting to watch this. I'm hoping that they do the same with Stenzo Meyiwa, because there's just so many things that are just not making sense.
Thank you so much for your voice notes. Please always keep them coming. I love hearing from you. Our official The Lead WhatsApp line, of course, is 072-562-3179. Send all your voice notes there. In the absence of actually driving up and down the country, it's so fantastic to hear people from all corners of Mzansi. To be reminded of each episode, please hit the follow and subscribe buttons on our Spotify, Apple, and YouTube podcast channels. It really does help if you want to be notified of our next editions. My name's Graham Robenheimer. So long as there's news, we'll always have, you know it, The Lead.